for this story, the Minneapolis massacre, let's go over, because we've got the Post Millennial, but we also have the editor-in-chief of the Post Millennial with us. Libby, can you give us the sort of update on, not the update, but just a rundown? If someone's living under a rock, they have no idea what happened in Minneapolis, walk us through the story as you have it now.
Well, this is something that we were tracking all day in the newsroom at the Post Millennial. Myself, Hannah Nightingale, and Roberto Wakeroll Cruz, and they did the bulk of the writing on this. And by the end of the day, I was like, go get some air, guys, because it's brutal just from being in a newsroom covering this kind of stuff, covering like massacres of children. So what we had in Minneapolis was a man whose mom used to work at the school, who identifies as transgender, 23 years old, came to the school. It was the first week of classes at Annunciation. And all of the kids were at mass. He had 3 weapons with him, a pistol, a shotgun, and something else. I don't remember what it was. Some of these weapons were emblazoned.
A pistol, shotgun, and a semi-automatic
rifle. A semi-automatic rifle. And the barrels of the guns, one of them said, kill Trump on it.
Yeah,
they had
very
all
reminiscent
kinds
of the Christchurch shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, like a lot of
we've seen a lot of
terrifying
shooters that write on the
messages. Came up to the windows outside the school, started shoot outside the church. Yeah, the stained glass windows. It looks like maybe some of the doors were barricaded on the side that he was shooting into. He shot through the stained glass windows, killed 2 students, injured 14 students. There was actually a 5th grader who dove under the pews and said that his friend Victor covered him under the pews, and protected him. And Victor got shot in the back and was taken to the hospital. And the shooter killed himself inside the church. And now there's 14 injured children. 2 families have lost their children, and some injured adults as well.
And I think I did see, I've been tracking all the updates, CNN and everyone, and Post Millennial updates, and of course Daily Mail. And I believe that they did say, though, that they believe that the injured students that are in the hospital as of right now are expected to recover. So they're not expected. So they're, we were hearing people that were on, that were critical, and it seems as though they're not anymore. So that's amazing.
A real blessing.
Thank God. That's an
Yeah,
absolute
thank
blessing.
God it's right now.
And so the shooter, Libby, walk us through the very strange, very bizarre case, but unfortunately now becoming almost a trend of this Robert, aka Robin Westman.
Mm-hmm. So we had, wait 1 second here. Sorry about that.
You had what?
Okay. Sorry about that. No, I was just, I was talking to one of our writers who was working on something, and we were debating whether or not
But the idea
Mr.
was that
Westman
this was
a former student of the school. There's some back and forth.
Well, it looks like the mother
had worked at the school. So this guy, as soon as it was revealed what his name was, which came onto social media before it came up in any of the news outlets, Robin Westman, it turns out that he had gender transitioned. He had changed his name. His mother had signed off on that. So he had supportive parents who were helpful, apparently, in his gender transition. He had a lot of really wild writings. We were talking about this earlier, a lot of anti-Jewish stuff, pro-Gaza stuff, and some writing that was really hard to decipher. It was like...
And anti-Trump.
Yeah, anti-Trump stuff. And a lot of it was, we were looking at it and it sort of looked like it was in Russian, but it was sort of phonetically using the Cyrillic alphabet.
It was using the Russian alphabet, the Cyrillic alphabet, but it was English for the most part. So if you know the Russian alphabet, which is kind of just based on Greek anyway, if you know the Greek letters, you can. I was trying to muddle my way through it earlier today, and then someone used AI, and it just
there you go.
all the way there.
That's right. Why do we do it ourselves anymore?
Right. Well, you got to challenge yourself, but very horrifying manifesto, because what you would see in this thing, and maybe we'll check out some portions of it, because
we can look at it.
You see what you see is someone who is talking about very matter-of-factly how he plans to kill the children, and is discussing, and it's almost a journal where he's like talking to himself quite a bit, where he's discussing when is the best time to target the children. Would it be when they're on the playground? What's a good vantage point? Would it be when they're going into the gym? But it's tough because apparently the gym is in the basement, so that would be hard to get there with this arsenal of weapons, which obviously you can't really conceal a semi-automatic rifle. And then eventually we know, obviously he chooses this mass, and I believe they were still entering into mass. And so it was this, so you can see the direct connection between the manifesto, the pre-planning, and the actual event itself, because the idea was to target the children as they were moving. The school is in one building and the church is in another. So the idea was to target the children as they were walking in to the church. And it is a miracle that that more were not killed.
It really is.
Because of the way this was planned.
It's sort of reminiscent of the Nashville shooting.
It's very reminiscent. Yeah. And so there are two martyrs now in they're in heaven, but this took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's go. I want to get Dr. Turley's take on this. Why are we seeing this trend?
I'm just writing. I put a phrase down: the banality of evil. And if I recall, that was Viktor Frankl's phrase, who suffered through the Holocaust. And just the way I looked at some of those videos of him planning this attack, and that's the motto that I heard. It's just the pure banality of what he's doing. It's just so matter of fact, and it reminded me of the Rutgers study that was published back in May. They called it assassination culture. Did you catch this?
I did see this,
yeah. So there was a Rutgers study that asked the question, do you think it is justifiable to assassinate President Trump? And there were two stunning numbers. The first one was the amount of people who said yes. It was about a third of those who said yes. But what was even more stunning was that a majority of self-identified Democrats, 55%, said that it was at least somewhat justified to assassinate President Trump. He's in good company. 60% of self-identified leftists believed vandalizing and destroying Teslas was justifiable, and what we were seeing here, and what shocked the scholars of this study, is they were calling it assassination culture. And what it seems to be is the left appears to have lost the ability to discuss and to deliberate and to debate. What wokeness basically does is it designates certain things as so sacred, certain identities as so sacred, that any dissent from them is considered to be heresy. And what do you do with heretics? You excommunicate them, right? And what's the ultimate form of excommunication? Right? You burn them. Exactly. And so there just seems to be this virus, this infestation of excommunication. I mean, even Bill Maher's brought it up. What are we going to do? We can't. This is when Biden was president. What do we do? You can't. Make half the country disappear. You got to learn to get along with your MAGA uncle. You're going to have to.
They don't, though.
They don't. That's the thing.
They've taken to excommunicating their own family members,
exactly.
And that was I think the earliest sign for a lot of people was that if you can't leave it at the dinner table and move on with your life with the people that you have the closest relationship to, you can't expect them to hold that with people who believe something different that have no connection to them whatsoever.
Well, there was this very crazy thing in July. There was an article out from the New York Intelligencer saying it's okay to go no contact with your MAGA relatives. That was in July 2025.
Yep.
They've been saying the same thing since like 2016, 2017. And in the same time, also in July, same week, was an article from the New York Times, an opinion essay saying, is it time to stop snubbing your right-wing family? And so they're still debating this, right? And the crazy thing about is it time to stop snubbing your right-wing family one? The guy who wrote it was talking about how he got into surfing, and the only person he knew who was into surfing was his MAGA brother-in-law. So he had to descend and lower himself to go talk to
tolerate.
his brother-in-law because that was the only guy who knew who was surfing. And the brother-in-law was like, "Sure, dude, I'll go surfing
whatever.
with you. No big deal. Like that's cool."
This kind of stuff, we can laugh about it, and we all laugh about. I've cracked more than my share of jokes about Antifa or others, but at the same time, these are the individuals who are so sick and twisted and depraved that they are far more willing to pick up a firearm and walk into one of these situations, a school, a school with little kids, and start opening fire. And so they're absolutely deadly dangerous, and it's absolutely deadly serious. And so, we were, as this story was breaking, I didn't even mention it to my wife. I didn't even mention it to Tanya Tay because, as we were finding out about this, our kids are in a Catholic school, and we're, we didn't have a school mass this week, but I'm sure I think we have one coming up. That's going to be the first one. And the school actually sent out a very nice letter. Obviously, I'm not going to be naming it, but
Oh, I wanted to get in my car and run over and pick up my son from school.
It hits close to home. It hits really close to home. And by the way, for any parent, right? For any parent, but it really is religious schools, and particularly Christian schools, that are targeted again and again and again. And I tweeted something earlier about this, and the reason that I believe it is because at the end of the day, these people, these lunatics, believe that God created them wrong. So they hate God for creating them. They realize that they can't attack God directly. They can't do anything to God directly. So what do? You attack his children. You attack the you find the thing that's going to hurt him the most by going after that which is most precious to him. There's the children of God.
There's a lot of substance to that argument. The idea that they're going after,
in their mind, obviously, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, whatever kind of twisted way they approach the world, but it's beyond just attacking God for making them wrong. It's attacking God for the crime of making the world imperfect. The left really believes that you can perfect the world, that you can perfect humanity, that if you just make enough changes, just do enough things, or whatever it is, the topic of the day or the topic that's most important on their mind, they believe that you can perfect humanity. That's why the farthest left believe in communism. They believe that they can perfect society. And so they want, when they see the imperfections, they want to lash out at God and all of existence for the crime of being imperfect.
Right, but it's human beings that brought, imperfection and evil into the world, right? I mean, we're the ones that ate that apple and got kicked out of Eden.
But for a lot of these younger, like the shooters of today, what is happening now is we've got decades of the media pushing back and saying that Christianity is evil. We've got decades of the media. The other big thing with these stories is, like, look, leftist violence is largely ignored in all sentiments. If you were to ask the average person if you would ask the average person, like, where does the majority of the what they call domestic terrorism and violence coming from, they're going to tell you it's coming from the right. All of these stories end up all of these stories end up getting buried to page 3 after enough, in just due course. It's not going to take much time for that to happen. And what you do is you prime people who are, look, I was just reading a thread yesterday. I don't remember who posted it. It might have been Josie, but somebody said, like, isn't it interesting how after serial killers became media fascination in the 70s and 80s, it immediately gave way to school shooters in the 90s. And this was yesterday before that happened. And now that's kind of grown from what was serial killers as a matter of public fascination. School shooters in the 90s, it felt like it was about despair and a lack of motivation for life, or a lack of home life, right? It was about your parents getting divorced and antidepressants. And that's just given way to another thing today, which is which is identity.
Sure, politics. But now with the trans shooter and which we've seen a number of trans shooters at this point, you have politicians wearing shirts that have like a knife on it and a rose or semi-automatic guns saying protect trans kids.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.